my little ghosts and ghouls, to
One Touch Now,
where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now. And in today's episode, I am so happy to announce that the classic 1995 Casper movie has returned. That as well as Gremlins. So if you want like two classic movies to get through right now, those are both winners. Rewatching this, I haven't seen it in a couple years. I was like, fuck, this is good. Because they somehow create this perfect flow. There doesn't seem to be any hiccups, anything out of place, where they branch between something that's like very Marx Brother, Three Stooges comedy act with the uncles, and simultaneously tackle really serious topics like loss, grieving, death itself. And it even hit me just thinking about like Casper in itself. Because Casper's originally, like, comic-wise, is meant to be very cutesy and sweet, but in reality, it's about a dead little boy. It's pretty fucking dark. And then I realized, when I was, like, looking through some of the IMDb, that it was actually written by the original co-creator of Casper himself, Joseph Oriolo, which I was like, fuck, he did a great job. He actually was involved with a bunch of other little cute, animated Casper movies, and he always has done a great job with the idea itself. But I would say of any Casper project he's worked on, this one stands out the most. He took an idea and really built on it, and he did a great job. Because like I said, how do you go between something so goofy and parody-oriented where like the ghosts are pretending to be like 1950s greasers to actually talking about like a wife being dead and the husband unable to grapple with that decision? So yeah, good job, Joseph. You did a great job. So let's talk about Casper and what a brilliant setup it is in this movie. Because like I would say the most creative thing in this movie is how they bring everybody together to bring them to that specific haunted house where the uncles and Casper is. And we're also going to talk about how Casper died. We don't know how the uncles died, unfortunately, but we'll talk about how Casper died. So you basically get this setup where, by the way, I love that this was like such a common 90s thing. I know it was a very common 90s thing. I wish they would bring these type of personalities or duos back. But essentially there's some sort of older woman who's very greedy, very high maintenance, very bossy, and she's fucking hysterical and super blunt and mean, and she usually has someone who's kind of like, you're not quite sure, like they're clearly not dating, but they're somehow partners, and he does everything she wants, and he's kind of like almost a weenie. Usually he gets some sort of redemptive arc, which I love. And we get that between Cathy Morjarty, who plays Kerrigan, and Eric Idle, who plays Dibs. Dibs, I love that dumb name. Anyways, she's inheriting money from her very wealthy father, but he only left her this really shitty condemned property. So she is trying to do whatever she can to make a buck, trying to sell it or something like that. And these ghosts, specifically the uncles, are scaring everyone away. So she's in a position where she's like, I can't even fix up this house and sell it. I can't even sell its property, anything, because this house is so fucking haunted. So, with the help of cute little Casper possessing a TV, by the way, if you think that ghosts are only stuck at one location, that is not true at all. A great evidence for that is I have another podcast called Mystery Storytime Podcast. You should totally check it out. And in one of our episodes, we talked about a Kindred Spirits episode where they were doing an investigation in Gettysburg. And Gettysburg actually has a couple locations from some people who unfortunately were civilians that died in the war, or the battle, I mean, and like their property's still there, their ghost is still there. And it's like fucking crazy and hilarious, but a new ghost was there, and they were not nice, and the other ghosts ratted him out. Even though he mostly resided in another building, the other ghosts said that they left the property and were regularly roaming around and would run across him and didn't like him and wanted him the fuck out of there, which I just thought was so fucking funny. I'm like, they sold him out. So anyways, Casper leaves his home, haunted little TV, and brings to attention to Kerrigan about not a father and daughter, but a therapist of ghosts, as you will, played by sexy man himself, Bill Pullman. Dr. Harvey is who he plays. And his daughter is Christina Ricci. I love Christina Ricci, especially as a child actor. Fuck, she was good. Anyway, she plays Cat. And his motivation and existence as a character is brilliant. So he believes that ghosts, he can help rid your house of these ghosts because they usually have some sort of unfinished business or need to emotionally grapple with their own death, which is so interesting and rather true. It's like, I wonder if most paranormal investigators are aware that their job is going to have to be partially a therapist going into it, because a lot of the time people who get into ghost hunting are just genuinely fascinated with ghosts themselves. And if they talk to them, they're not always prepared, and I think they quickly adapt to just being like, oh, I'm going to have to tell them that they're dead. They don't know they're fucking dead. So it's pretty crazy in that way. So anyways, his theory though is his way of approaching the problem is being a therapist, which I was like, oh, that's kind of genius and makes perfect sense. And so he wants proof that there's ghosts, and he also wants to communicate with them. And so he gets hired by her, and he has to live in the house, and they're not sure how long it's going to take, but he's going to deal with the ghosts. Meanwhile, poor Cat has been moving school to school and really is tired of being kind of viewed at like the weird girl because of her dad's occupation. She's tired of the constant moving. You know, she's like a normal kid having her hangups with it. But I do want to mention, I thought it was really funny in the beginning of the film. Bill Pullman's character, Dr. Harvey, makes a deal with his daughter, essentially saying, if this is the last one, I'll get another job. Don't worry if we don't find anything. And I'm thinking, girl, I don't mean to be rude, but your dad is trying to make a fucking living, right? He's going to give up his whole goddamn career so you don't feel weird. I'm sorry, honey, but someone got to pay the bills. I can't imagine what he would do. Like, I don't know what his skill sets are out of this place. So, like, you're going to have to fucking suck it up. Daddy's got to pay the bills. And when he gets there, he encounters the uncles. And this is something I fucking loved about him. He's very much like, they set him up to be like a very sweet, understanding, huggy type guy. But Dr. Harvey don't fucking take shit. He is tormented by these three uncles. And when he is fighting them back with a plunger while they have an actual fucking sword. Like, they kind of let it be very silly and cute, but there feels like real stakes that, because they can move inanimate objects and they don't really have any respect for human life, it feels like if they wanted to, if you push them enough, they really could just actually murder you for the fun of it, which is so weird to think about. I wish we did get a little bit of a background story about why they have their names, how did they die, were they ever related to Casper, or has it just become kind of a weird, like, we're your uncle's surrogate type family thing? Like, why are they haunting that house, and so on and so forth. I kind of get the idea that after you die, they were names they gave themselves out of their, like, goofy personalities, because it seems like most ghosts very quickly don't remember who they are or what their purpose was, and so on and so forth. So that could be one answer to their ridiculous names, especially, like, how the fuck did they perfectly carve them into the beds? Also, this gets, like, skirted over with, but in the house, they quickly encounter each other, and very quickly the uncles are almost kind of won over by Dr. Harvey's, like, gumption for not taking their shit and just continuing to live with them. And they kind of are the one family that they allow to live there because they like hanging out with Dr. Harvey. And they mostly leave the little girl alone, but she is not afraid to get into, like, a name-calling match with them, which I'm just like, fuck yeah, little girl, you got balls. And Cat actually quickly befriends Casper. Now, the thing that's so interesting that everyone kind of, like, skirts over this, but rewatching it as an adult, I'm like, oh my god. This is, like, child labor laws to the max, because technically, if we're talking about how long Casper's been dead, he's probably, like, 40 or 50 for all we know. But Casper is the ghost of a 12-year-old boy, and he's being forced to do all the baking, the cleaning. He is essentially, like, he treats it very much like, oh, yeah, but he's being forced to and beat up by his uncles. It's pretty fucking fucked up. But then on another note, I have to say, no one is giving major street cred to these uncles, their level of improv with their timing and how in sync they are with each other is like untouchable. I know we just take it for granted because obviously it's a well-written script and it's all meant out that way, but like if these ghosts actually exist, their level of like being able to turn into something else and the other ones quickly to know where the joke's going, I'm just like, God, you guys probably have fun all fucking day with fucking with people. Like, that's like, you know, they say you should do what makes you happy, and that's where you should put all your focus. They obviously don't care about material wealth or anything anymore, and they're like, okay, all I want to do is just laugh and fuck with people. Who gives a shit? There's no repercussions. We'll go to the extra mile. We'll scare them. We'll get creative with it. Who fucking gives a shit? They do leave the house, though, so it sounds like they leave the house and scare other people sometimes. And interestingly enough, they can eat food and sleep. So I can't tell if that's like psychological, like a placebo, or they just do it for the hell of it. Who fucking knows? I feel like they could do it for the hell of it because they're like that as people or ghosts, so to speak. But this is when we get into some of the more touching and serious notes. So Dr. Harvey got interested into all this ghost stuff because unfortunately his wife died a couple years ago, Amelia. And I thought it was a pretty fucked up prank they did, but it did ultimately pay off. The ghosts, the uncles specifically, mention that they actually know Amelia, which is so weird. It leaves me with like 8 million questions. Like, do they know Amelia? Like think about how many ghosts exist, like how many people have died in like even the last year around the world, let alone lifetime. How would they explicitly know Amelia? They don't know every single ghost. Part of me wonders if in a weird way they were fated, like they met each other and so therefore some weird fated way the husband got drawn to that house and that's how the connection happened. Or maybe she knew at one point they would run into each other, and that's why she made the connection with the uncles. Like, who fucking knows? But either way, they talk about her in a non-joking, like, really complimentary way. And they do the most messed up prank to him where they insinuate that they can make him have a connection with her. But when he goes to answer the door, it's this big emotional buildup. It's Fatso with, like, giant jiggly boobs pretending to be his dead wife and even gives him a bullshit kiss. Like, it's like so, like, it's silly and comedic, but I'm like, that is so morbid as a joke. Like, fuck, they have no red tape they will not cross. Meanwhile, though, Kat's developing this cute little relationship with Casper, who's like slowly kind of developing a crush on her. They're getting to know each other. I love their first encounter. It's so like real and human. Like, they ask the basic questions like, can you hurt me? Can I hurt you? And then once the kind of barriers get kind of set of just like everything's cool between each other, they end up having some very serious conversations, not only about Casper's desire to want to be close to her and her basically kind of like, I don't think she meant to be mean, but her just being like, boy, you ain't real, I can't date you. Or like, I'm happy to be friends with you, but I want to also be in contact with the real world, which is like totally opposite from her dad perspective-wise. So it's kind of interesting that the dad doesn't want to be, and while she wants to be with everyone else, even though she's not truly accepted and they're trying to pull mean pranks on her and stuff, she's ironically becoming also very connected to the afterlife. So they end up having a discussion on a lighthouse. It's a very cute moment. And it's so sad. Casper doesn't remember who he is, when he died, anything, how old he is. But it's eventually found out through an article that his dad was an inventor. And he was very close with his dad, and his dad one day got him a sled. And he was so excited about the sled, he was about 12 years old, that he went out and he stayed out a little too long and late. And this unfortunately caused him to get pneumonia, and he died. But the thing is, his dad obviously was so bereaved by this, also someone who didn't deal with the loss well, that he became obsessed with the idea of being able to bring a ghost back to life. So by pure fucking coincidence, in this basement is like a crazy, sit in a chair, go through a machine, wacky red syrup, Beetlejuice kind of esque adventure type thing going on in the basement, which I fucking loved. I miss it. Don't you miss that in 90s movies? You think of the Addams Family, how they get into the vault, things like that. So, I mean, even a little bit Indiana Jones. Anyways, by the way, I forgot to mention this. The reason why Kerrigan and Dibbs are still really into the house is because while they are trying to do something with the house, they do find out that there is some sort of treasure. So they're trying to, like, as a subplot, trying to get in and figure out where the treasure is. Which I don't know why they're not more upfront of just, like, digging in the house. I mean, it is their house. They didn't give the house to Dr. Harvey or his daughter. Like, they can Dr. Harvey and Kat aren't even paying rent, so they can't really do anything about it if they were to come and look for the treasure, but that's like a side plot line. So anyways, what ends up, so you find out Casper's tragic backstory, and the ending is like so many levels of fucked up and beautiful all at once. By the way, who else didn't have a beautiful connection, or no, not a beautiful connection, a deep little crush on human Casper? So beautiful. Such a cute boy. But we'll get to that. Essentially what happens is while Dr. Harvey is dealing with the grief he's feeling for his wife, not feeling like he's going to get any sense of closure or actually connect to her, that he's being fucked with these ghosts, he accidentally dies. Which, again, they gloss over that. But that's so fucked up and crazy. At the same time as Kerrigan and Dibbs were trying to get access to this, like, secret formula of youth, the treasure, all this shit, Kerrigan actually dies. So we get this standoff where we have the ghost dad dead, and obviously Kat trying to deal with the fact that she might have to pay all the fucking bills at the age of 12. That is, like, they just gloss over that real quick. And the fact that Kerrigan is going to not only successfully steal the treasure that she finds from the vault, but she is going to take the formula of youth or being reviving and come back to her human self. So Casper and Kat pull a really, just love this, like, how they talk about the idea of what people believe, like, evidence today of what paranormal investigators have experienced with ghosts. And a lot of them tend to not move on because they have unfinished business. So they get her to admit she technically has no unfinished business because she has everything she possibly wants, which kind of, like, forces her aggressively into the light. And that then, instead of Casper, who's all this time been begging and wanting to be, it's like Pinocchio syndrome, wants to be a real boy, makes the sacrifice to give this red Kool-Aid liquid of life to Kat's dad and bring him back to life. It's kind of crazy too, because when he dies, he's only been dead for maybe, like, I don't know, 10 minutes, and he's already starting to forget her name and, like, detach himself. It's kind of interesting. It starts to make you wonder, like, what is the human soul, and where do our memories and our being lie? Like, what really truly makes us us, and what defines us? Our memories, or is our personality its own thing? It leaves you with a lot of interesting questions. And Casper gives it to Dr. Harvey. He comes back to life. It was a short-lived death, thank God. I'm surprised. He should write a whole book about, like, I died, became a ghost, and came back to life. That would, honestly, he could totally give up just, like, small-time ghost hunting if he wrote a bestseller like that. And Kat's obviously very thankful, just in time for the Halloween party they're throwing at their haunted house. And it's so sad because even though it is her Halloween party, she's all alone, no one's dancing with her, and meanwhile, in the attic, and Casper's, like, very sad that he doesn't get to technically take her to the party or be with her, motherfucking Amelia, Dr. Harvey's wife, just shows the fuck up like the blue fairy herself, except the red fairy, the red sexy witch fairy. And she explains that it was really, really wonderful and nice of Casper, and she will give him a gift. This starts to leave me with a lot of fucking questions, because all I can think is, like, I'm like, is she, like, extra powerful in the afterlife? Is this a thing all ghosts can do? If they can, fuck them for not, like, giving some cool abilities and powers to the rest of us humans. I'm not referring to, like, I do believe, like, when the end is the end, that type of stuff. But just, I don't know, it's like, what is her capabilities? Like, maybe she was a fairy for all we know. So she gives Casper the ability to become human. And she also meets with her late husband, which is really sweet. She makes kind of like a gorgeous, like, closure statement with him. She basically says, you guys loved me so well. I don't really have anything I need to, like, I don't have any unfinished business. I'm okay. Which is, like, great and beautiful to say, like, you did a good job. We had a good family. But when Dr. Harvey tries to make the accusation that, like, he doesn't know what to do as a dad, and she tries to give him some sort of advice, he even cuts her off, admitting himself that he does know what to do. He is a great dad. He can take care of Amelia. And I think that's something that was weighing on him. Just knowing, to be honest with you though, Amelia honestly should have fucking visited him sooner and said this, because just him, like, hearing her one last time was enough for him to gain some sort of closure, and that, you know, extra trust as a partner that they're raising their kid just fine. Honestly, Amelia could have saved their family, like, a lot of time. Just saying, Amelia, show up sooner. So Amelia has this beautiful closure with Dr. Harvey. And cute little Casper becomes a cute little boy that comes down and dances with Cat. They even dance in the fucking sky. No one finds that scary. They find Casper scary, the cute little cartoon ghost, but they don't find the two humans floating in the air in this haunted mansion as spooky, which just makes me laugh. This is a particularly funny scene to me because technically Casper's supposed to be 12, and I want to be like, bitch. No, these kids are not. This is pretty fucking romantic for 12. I'm gonna say minimum at least 14. Something that's kind of cool and interesting, though, about Casper himself is I was looking up the human Casper, and did you know, fun fact, the same year that this happened, Christina Ricci was in the movie Now and Then, and her romantic interest she reluctantly develops feelings for was played by this guy. So he played human Casper, and he played a romantic interest in another movie. I was actually talking about that with my boyfriend. It's kind of like a great motivation for not only actors, but I would argue anybody, like, work ethic wise, that have you ever noticed some people get hired time and time again as couples because they have such great chemistry? And it kind of shows that you always want to give your best, because either you will be hired because they've seen your other work and see what a great job you do, so they'll be like, even if the main protagonist was shit, you as a side character, you clearly can bring it, we're going to give you more opportunities. Or if no matter what you're like, you know, maybe you hate the person you're working with, but you work really hard to create that type of emotional vibe with them, if they really, like, if you give that vibe off, you might get gigs just because people will go, hey, these two together, they work really well, we want to see that again. So definitely, it's like advice for, like, if you're in the acting business or just in general anything you do, give it your fucking all. Trust me, people will notice. And I just thought that was like a cool, cute little thing that they were in the same movie again together. So when they have this little romantic, he even says to her, and I just want to point this out, he goes, can I keep you? It's weird that it's still really cute hearing that, but, like, in another, like, just matter-of-fact phrasing, it's like, keep me? What the fuck does that mean? Are you gonna drop me from this balcony? Am I gonna be dead too? What does keeping me mean? I'm an independent woman, okay? No, I'm just kidding. And I did think it was also fucked up, may I add, that the Amelia, the red fairy, we'll call her, she gave him the ability to be human until 10, which was basically, what, like 15 minutes? And he says, hey, Cinderella got till midnight, and she goes, Cinderella wasn't 12. I want to be like, bitch. I just gave the fountain of youth to your motherfucking husband, and you're only going to give me 15 minutes to be human? Not 15 years? 15 months? Are you 15 hours? Like, fuck you. I thought that was a big fuck you moment. And essentially, they get their cute little romantic moment and connection. Casper gets to be a real boy. Dr. Harvey gets a nice connection. And then when Casper turns back to a ghost after they have this romantic kiss, everyone loses their fucking mind and leaves. And this is something that I don't know why, but even rewatching it, it still worked for me. But I still want to point out how weird it is that Casper is voiced by a different actor, so he's kind of got a cutesy, kind of even younger than 12-ish vibe to him. And then you meet him as a, like, borderline sexy 14-year-old, you know, for him, not for the little girl, not me. But what I'm trying to say is, it's a totally different vibe to see her basically admitting, like, her romantic feelings for Casper and then going back to essentially being friend-zoned because he's dead. It's like, oh, I don't know why this works. I'm okay with it ending on, like, a weird greaser rock 60s or 50s kind of surf rock kind of ending song. Sure, I'll go with the cute cartooniness of it, but are we just gonna skip over that? Because, like, poor fucking Casper is all I'm gonna say. Like, what is Casper gonna do if, because essentially at the very end when Kerrigan throws out Dibs, so Dibs is most likely dead. Dibs gets thrown out the fucking window. Kerrigan passes on from passing away from New Life. So essentially, in a weird way, they're saying that Dr. Harvey and Cat are going to continue living in the house. What's gonna happen when Kat's like 16 and starting to date other boys, and Casper, the like 100-year-old, 12-year-old ghost, is gonna like be trying to scare them away? Is he always gonna be friendly? Is he gonna be peeping on them? Like, what level of creep factor are we signing ourselves up for in the future? It's a lot of questions and a lot of things I just wanted to point out. But overall, it's really cute, really fun, super emotional, and it's a pretty quick watch, so you should definitely like either watch it for the first time or rewatch it, because it's always fun when you like one of the things I love about this podcast is when you rewatch a lot of these classics, you have a whole different perspective on the seriousness of the stakes or how well done something was made, and this would be an example of that. So yeah. Please consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. I've got a lot of fun, cool content that includes an awesome mystery cipher and a bunch of other cool secret podcasts and projects that I'm putting out regularly. And don't forget to subscribe at the minimum. Tell a friend. Let me know what you think. I got a Twitter, and all those links are down in the description below. I love you in the most platonically possible. Bye!